morning, guys. It is Friday today and I'm going to the F1 exhibition at the Excel Centre in London, and I'm going to take you guys along, and yeah, I'm really excited. It should be really good and super interesting. Here we are walking towards the entrance. It was up quite a few stairs, and then this is the actual entrance of the F1 exhibit, and there's this room with all this info. After this you walk into a dark room which has got a load of screens and then the old cars which you can see now, and honestly there was probably 6 or 7, and it was really cool to see like how the cars have changed throughout history. In this room there was all the information on the wall, and there was quite a few screens and TVs and like pictures all over the wall, and it was really interesting because there was so much information, and you had headphones on which were playing a kind of a guide of it, and this bit you learn about like Ferrari and the influential figures in F1 history. The clips you can see are kind of F1 Drive to Survive style, if that makes sense, like they were information but they were quite short and snappy. In this clip there was loads of trophies, like you can see the Japanese Grand Prix I believe trophy here, which was really cool. Because it's F1 Exhibition London, it talked about the British Grand Prix and about the history of it. This was a separate room, and it had kind of got a wind tunnel model, as you can see here, and then it got information about the parts of the model, and you could see like how it functioned. The whole room was based on the scientific part, so you can see aerodynamics, you've got the engine, and then in the middle of the room they'd got a Max Verstappen Red Bull, which was really cool, and one of my relatives works and has designed a part of that car. Then you move on to the brakes and suspension, which was interesting, and then the Drive to Survive style videos. Here's the kind of cockpit or like seating bit of the car, and as you can see like it's a lot of carbon fibre and the halos on there. And then just behind it, it's got the video and all the explainers. There's another angle of the Red Bull F1 car, which was in the middle of the room, and it was really cool to see. Then we've got another video, because there's tons of these dotted around the exhibition. This is a separate room now, and as you can see it's got the World Champion trophy and all of the champions listed behind it, which was really cool. Then as you turn around we see these head cast kind of things, or I can't remember what they're called, like statues of some of the past champions, and honestly like they weren't particularly amazing. I feel quite offended if I had one of these, but like obviously I don't know what the F1 drivers look like in person, but from photos these weren't realistic and quite offensive, to be honest. There's a little podium here, and then in the second room there are some tyres which you can like read about and learn more about. Moving on to the third room now, there was this like floating grid thing which had historical F1 like suits and helmets, and as you can see Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc. Then it got about behind the scenes of how the drivers progressed and how they became drivers. There was loads of helmets dotted about and loads of information about like Max Verstappen's karting career or Lando Norris's karting career. And then this is another angle of the weird floating starting grid with the historic ones that you can see clearly. There's another Max Verstappen thing, and through this Lando Norris helmet there was a camera in it so you could see yourself. There were some helmets and then some historic suits, like I think there's a Nigel Mansell one. There's a Jacques Villeneuve there on the right, which was really cool to see, and it's really different how you see like the details now versus then. There's my helmets that you can see, and they were like all behind a cage. I did look for a Jenson Button's helmet, but there wasn't any. Then there's more suits, more trophies, more like historical things. There we go, we've got some more modern helmets now. I believe Daniel Ricciardo's helmet's there, I think Fernando Alonso. The steering wheel's there with all the like behind the scenes, like the wheel gun as well, and the headsets that the engineers will wear. This section focused on historic battles that are well known, so Coulthard versus Schumacher, Piquet versus Mansell, Hamilton and Verstappen, and each of the videos showed a bit of the story. Then we move on to more historical things, so you can see here kind of a frame of a car, which is really cool, but obviously it's not the real car. Then it moved on to like the technical stuff. This is the fourth room now, guys, and it got like the rule books from the FIA, and you can see the old FIA logo from years ago. Then we've got bits of cars, so I think that's a Jim Clark Lotus probably, and then right in the middle there was the old McLaren, which was so cool, and just behind it the old Mercedes, which was also really cool to see. and I liked that it had like real F1 cars. Then you move on to the other bits of the car. So I believe there was a couple wings there, and there's a big model, and then an engine. Personally, I don't really know much about this part, so I was a bit confused. There's a back wing and a side pod, I believe. This room's kind of in a U shape, so as you go round, like the two cars are in the middle, but there's obviously the like interactive backgrounds. There's two wings there, and it was really cool to see the difference between, I think, the 2008 wing and then like 2022, 2023. It was insane, guys. This next section focused on like the future, so sustainable fuel, and then F1 Academy, which was really good and I think was really, really nice to see. I think this is the fifth room now, but it was really harrowing because it talks about Romain Grosjean's accident at Bahrain, and as you can see there is the burnt cockpit of his car, and there's some information about it, and you can just see how it's so crazy that he walked out of that accident alive, and it was insane. In this room there was like kind of posters of drivers, I suppose, which were really funny to take 0.5 photos of, by the way, guys. But it got all of the drivers from the 2024 season, I believe. So they must have changed Logan Sargent out for Franco Colapinto. So as you walk through this, you were kind of held by some barriers, and you were led into this room, which had got massive screens everywhere, and you were kind of held in an enclosure, and it played like historic bits of F1, and as you can see, it like lights up with stars, I assume, and it had got loads and loads of like massive visuals, and you can just see like the videos were really good, and they were really, really informative, and you can just see how it's kind of changed over time. And then as you leave, there is a big thanks to this people, and these were the people involved in it. You could go on simulators, but I chose not